short story summary of David is called A Shepherd Warrior on the Run. And the summary spans quite a bit. So you're going to want to go listen to it or read it yourself. But this gives you a hint of what was happening. We're told in this section of the Bible about David. So as David's fame increased, King Saul's anger and jealousy increased. David was loved by everyone. Everyone in Judah and Israel loved him. Everyone in the court loved him. In fact, as David would go out and serve, the people began to sing praises and say, Saul killed his thousands, but David killed his tens of thousands. And this made Saul very jealous. In fact, it made him so jealous that he was determined that he was going to kill David. And he ended up making him a commander in his army so that he could put him in the front lines so that he would be killed. But David, he was successful and he remained faithful, protecting and caring for the nation of Israel. And his fame increased even more. And Saul's jealousy increased even more. In fact, Saul was known to throw spears and javelin at David at times in the court when he was playing music for him. And even though Saul was angry and jealous of David, his family wasn't. David actually built a good relationship with King Saul's son, Jonathan. And his daughter, Michal, she ended up falling in love with David. So King Saul had an idea. He was going to plot and use Michal to help him kill David and offer her as a wife for David. And one night as he was trying to kill him, Michal ended up rescuing and saving David. And David and Jonathan's relationship kept growing. And at the point that Saul's anger and jealousy became so violent and so aggressive that even Jonathan knew that it was time for David to leave. David and Jonathan secretly got together and plotted for David's departure. And Jonathan made a covenant with David, giving allegiance to him, knowing that he was the rightful one to be on the throne, not him. But he asked David a favor. He said, will you promise to keep your steadfast love for my family and protect my family? He was asking this even though King Saul was after him. And David promised that he would protect the family of King Saul and Jonathan. And so David fled with the help of Jonathan. And he ended up having to go out to the enemies of God in the nation of Israel and hide in their territory. He hid in the desert of Judah and in the caves. And while he was out there, he started gathering these men from many nations, men that were depressed and distressed and in debt, like the dregs of society that nobody would want. But David, as he gathered them, he united them and he invested in them. And his care for them was so real that these ended up becoming the mighty men of David. And so they would go out and they remained faithful and protecting and caring for the nation of Israel, even as Saul is in pursuit of them to kill David. Well, during sheep shearing season, there was one landowner that they had cared for his sheep very well and protected his shepherds. And so David wanted to go during the time of the festivals and have him bless his men back for what they had done. This was typical of what would happen when someone protected your property. And this man refused. And David was determined he was going to kill the entire household. But the man's wife heard about it. Her name was Abigail. And she brought gifts in abundance for David and his men. She fell before him. She took complete ownership for what happened. And she reminded David that he was to be the king of Israel, that he was to be the protector, and that he didn't need innocent blood on his hands. David listened, and he changed his course that day. And God honored him and avenged him. That landowner ended up dying 10 days later. And David ended up taking his wife Abigail to be one of his many wives. And David praised God because God had avenged him and protected him from doing something that he should not do with his own hands. It's so important to be in the Word, to be with Jesus, so we can be transformed. Shalom, y'all.